The whole of India sorrows over the victims and their grieving relatives of the worst air tragedy witnessed in the history of post independence. I tried hard to bring myself to a point of doing a video on the subject yesterday, but I found it extremely hard to do so. I still find it very hard. Before the heart wrenching reality of human suffering, language fails, brain shuts down, the mind becomes numb. I have a long way to recover from that state. But this morning it occurred to me that I should join you in reflecting upon this event because I believe that no matter how unbearable, unspeakable an event is, there is still a margin left for thinking on the subject. So I begin therefore by placing my heartfelt condolences for all those who are affected by this massive tragedy. To what extent avoidable, we do not know. The details of the logistics of this tragedy are still awaited, and maybe we'll be able to think more precisely based on established facts on a later occasion. But for the time being, my attempt here is to put this event in some kind of cultural perspective. Cultural perspective. Yesterday, as I came to know of this event, my mind went back to the sinking of the Titanic. Uh, about a century ago. The Titanic was showcased as the pride of European technological achievement. It was hailed and showcased as a marvel of human ingenuity, human skill, and genius that, according to some people then in England, not even God can sink. But this great pride of Western civilization, unfortunately, went like a piece of lead to the bottom of the sea. And I remember reading a very moving article by the English novelist Joseph Korzeniowski Conrad, a writer of Polish extraction, but he became a citizen of the UK. And he uses that opportunity to invite the people in Europe to re examine the faith that people repose in cultural achievements. And I think that's an exercise still relevant, and therefore, what I'm going to say in this video is meant to be complementary to what Joseph Conrad did in the article that he published on the sinking of the Titanic. You can easily get that article on the net, The Sinking of the Titanic by Joseph Conrad. Therefore, when I witnessed this tragedy, the foremost thought that came to my mind was the Janus faced genius of technology. Janus, the name from which the month January is derived. It's a Greek god who looks backwards and forwards at the same time, so two-faced. The double-edged character of technology. On the one hand, technology is a great blessing, great boon. It offers tremendous advantage to humanity. It saves time, it saves labor, it liberates people from back-breaking slavery-like situations. It redraws the boundaries of human possibility. It makes a seemingly impossible possible. It, at the same time, and that is the point I want to make, it also, at the same time, enslaves human beings. Technology empowers and enslaves human beings. Technology helps and hurts human beings. And often we forget the one side because of our obsession with the other. We are all beneficiaries of the many advantages offered by the rapid strides in technology, science and technology. For example, in the field of medicine, it will surprise many of you to know that barely 70 years ago, surgery was in such a crude state, you won't believe. Well, I remember in 1992, when I needed an MRI, and I was in the UK at that time, I suffered a serious setback in health. And I had to wait several days to get an appointment to get an MRI done. And it cost me 350 pounds sterling to get an MRI done in the UK because it was a novelty. Today, in every nook and corner, you have the MRI. uh, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, a kidney transplant in India was a rarity. Today, it is a commonplace. At the same time, it has also created the organ bazaar. So, the entire gamut of organ transplants has also created a huge problem of the organ bazaar with all the criminality that goes with it. Some of the odd looking murders that happen in this country, including Kerala, are suspected to be related to the organ bazaar. People are lured into certain situations and killed in order to harvest their organs because they fetch a lot of money. This is in the realm of speculation, so I don't want to spend more time on that. But certainly, as many thinkers in the West, particularly Jacques Ellul, Jacques, Ellul, 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 has realized that technology is a double-edged sword. In fact, you can get from the YouTube an hour-long interview with Jacques Ellul. The overall title of this is The Grand Betrayal of the West. The Grand Betrayal of the West, where this very bold French philosopher is expressing himself regarding the commonly ignored aspect, the most sinister, dangerous, threatening aspects of the rapid strides in technology. Today, everybody is excited about artificial intelligence. Now, in this heady excitement of mastering artificial intelligence, assuming that it will remain a slave to human intentions, people tend to neglect, and I'm surprised that it is neglected, that it could become our master and we could end up completely saved. In this context, I would like to refer you to a very small monograph. It's about 45 pages by Herbert George Wells, H.G. Wells. If my memory serves me right, that's the very last writing he published. The title of that writing is The Mind at the End of Its Tether. The Mind at the End of Its Tether. H.G. Wells is famous for a large number of his books, including Man Making Himself and Time Machine and so on and so forth. I mean, dozens of publications. Now, in this work, The Mind at the End of the Tether, published more than no, not more than 70 years ago, H.G. Wells says that if you look at the developments in the world, and this is Wells is writing all this before all those jazzy, mind-boggling technological breakthroughs have been achieved. But he says, like a prophet looking into the seed of time, he says, if you really regard the big picture, and understand the larger patterns of where we are being led, you will perhaps agree with me that humanity is undermining the very ground of its existence in the world, and that human beings will cease to be in this position of dominance over the world in the near future. Their place will be taken by some other creature. Which creature it is hard to say, whether it be a species from within the earth itself, or will it be some extraterrestrial, some aliens coming and taking charge of the earth, because human beings have proved that they are incapable of exercising responsible and healthy stewardship over the earth and its resources. He says, I do not know. But he says, I'm pretty sure that looking at the way history is progressing and regarding it from a philosophical angle, he says he has no doubt at all that the scheme of affairs that we have seen prevail over several millennia is now surely winding down to a close. Human beings are going to lose their preeminence. Their place will be taken over by some other creature. Well, obviously, that prophecy has not come true, but it's something that I try to keep at the back of my mind. Though, of course, I don't rely all my sort of intellectual dependence on this observation. Now, think of the Dreamliner, the pride of the Boeing company's production, the ultimate the Boeing has produced. Produced in order to strike a balance with airlines A380, which, as everybody would agree, is far superior to Dreamliner. So, with the launch of Airbus A380, Airbus clearly pipped the Boeing company. And today, of course, Boeing is scrambling up to see if it can regain the position of eminence that it once enjoyed. But that company is obviously in a less than happy state, and the less said about it, the better. So, when the Dreamliner was announced, I remember the excitement. And it was considered to be the safest, most reliable, state-of-the-art commercial airplane, though that claim was highly exaggerated. But let's grant that it is a marvelous piece of human avionics, engineering, etc., etc. But while it makes international and even domestic travel comfortable, safe, this is the first accident that the Dreamliner is getting involved in more than a decade. So it is still considered one of the safest, most reliable airplanes in the world, commercial airplanes in the world. So one accident does not dent the image of a product forever. Especially at this stage when the cause of the accident is still not established. But what I want to do at this point in time is to examine with you what happens to the human person in spite of all this most impressive strides in technology. Now, aviation is an aspect of travel. Travel is moving from one place to another, one spot to another. Now, if from here I get out of the house and walk up to the junction, which is 1 kilometer from here, We would say, I have traveled from here to the junction. So, travel means a physical displacement of a human being from one point to another. That's the basic aspect of traveling. We have seen various modes of traveling. When I was a school student studying in Bishop Hodges High School in Mavelikara, which was at a distance of about 3 kilometers from my house. In those days, there was no question of students traveling by bus, much less school bus or car or anything. I walked. In fact, to be more accurate, I ran. I had a cloth bag uh, in which those days, fortunately, the books were very few. So I'd pack up all that I needed, including a very small lunch packet, swing it over my shoulder and run. And I would reach. And in the afternoon, after school finished, I would also do the same thing. I would just run back. But once in a while, it would so happen that while I am moving or returning from school to home, I would come across a bullock cart. A bullock cart, and the bullock cart would be empty. It would have gone to some place, delivered the load there, and was on its way back. And it was a great temptation. It struck me as a great luxury to be able to get onto the bullock cart and to travel a while. So I'll walk after the bullock cart, and the driver of the bullock cart would sense the intention of this poor boy, and he would say, "Would like to come on? You would like to get onto it?" I said, "Yes, of course." And he would say, "Yes, come on." And I would throw my bag into it and jump onto. The bullock cart will never stop. You just jump onto it. Now, I think of that as my first locomotion, if you like. Now, the interesting thing is, as far as traveling by the bullock cart is concerned, obviously it is pathetically poor in terms of saving time or efficiency in travel, comfort, etc. But it was certainly very secure. I haven't even heard of a single person who died in a bullock cart accident. But that's not the main point. The main point is this. As a bullock cart traveler, I can get onto it, I can hop onto it, and I can hop out of it anytime I want. The bullock cart doesn't even have to stop. I can hop onto it and jump out of it anytime I want. I'm totally free as a traveler, provided the bullock cart driver allows me to travel. It was always free. He never charged me or anybody for that. Now, the next level of sophistication, technological sophistication in travel, is the invention of the car, then the line bus, etc. etc. If you have a private car you're traveling by, then it's okay. But if you're traveling by a line bus, public transport, then you are much less free as compared to a man traveling by a bullock cart. You can't hop on and jump off as you wish. You can get into the bus only if the conductor rings the bell and the driver stops. Likewise, you can get out of the bus only if the conductor and the driver together let you do so. So, notice that as you proceed from the bullock cart to the public transport system, the bus, your freedom of choice is compromised. You are much less free as a traveler in a bus, a more comfortable journey, certainly, more advantages, faster, efficient, all that's fine. But your freedom is compromised. I hope that point is clear. Now you think of the next stage of sophistication, the trains. The trains. Trains are certainly more efficient than the buses. Now, if you're a traveler by a train, your freedom is much more compromised than than the freedom of one who is traveling by a line bus. Now, if you want to get off a line bus, you can tell the conductor, he'll ring the bell and the driver will stop. But as far as the train is concerned, you get onto the train in one station and the train will stop only at the next station. Unless, of course, you pull the chain and bring the train to a stop, in which case you have to account for yourself, and if the reason for doing so is flimsy, you'll be fined or even imprisoned. So your freedom of choice is limited. More efficient in terms of the other advantages it offers, but it takes a toll on your personal freedom. Now you think of the next level of sophistication in travel, which is aviation. You travel by airplane. One who travels by the airplane is far less free as compared to the one who travels by train, leave alone the bullock cart, the bus. Even in comparison to the railway traveler, train traveler, the air traveler is less free. The train traveler can pull the chain and bring the vehicle, the train to a stop if he wants in desperate situations. But what will you do if you are in an aircraft that's airborne? There's nothing you can do. You're reduced to total, absolute helplessness. You can only sit and endure. It is this other aspect of technology, even as I'm mindful of all the blessings that progress in technology confers on humanity. If you like, the liberating impact, the liberating potentials of progress in technology, I cannot overlook this aspect of technology. Technology is a double-edged sword. When I say this, the votaries of modern culture gnash their teeth against me. I remember giving a series of talks in Christian Medical College, Vellore. I gave 3 talks on technology and the sacred space of healing. Technology and the sacred space of healing. That was the topic I chose. I gave 3 lectures in Christian to the senior most, the real intelligentsia in that institution. Uh, I don't have to say this to you that Christian Medical College, Vellore is perhaps the best academic medical community in India. Though year after year, that distinction is conferred on All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Now, the point I was making there was that the infusion or introduction of technology into the sacred space of healing, in which the main thing is how the patient and the doctor relate to each other, it seriously modifies that healing relationship. I remember the hostile reaction my very first lecture elicited. I don't blame anyone because doctors are trained nowadays to depend more and more and more on medical technology. As a result, what has happened is that doctors, without knowing it, are becoming more and more like medical technicians. They can't do a thing without technology. Whereas before, technology took such complete control over the practice of medicine. Doctors had to develop their human sensitivities, extra sensitivities, and they could do quite well with it. For example, one of the directors of Christian Medical College Vellore, Dr. V.I. Mathan, with whom I had a long association when he was the director of Vellore. I was on the executive committee and I was very close to him. And he used to tell me all kinds of illustrations, stories, etc. And in one such conversation, he told me about his medicine professor called, legendary doctor called Dr. Kudumbaya. Even today, those who are working in Christian Medical College Vellore, the senior faculty would be quite familiar with the name of Dr. Kudumbaya. He was a legendary doctor. He would take his students, MBBS students, make them stand in the corner of a ward and make them look at all the patients admitted there and ask them to look at them very, very carefully and diagnose the problem. Now, Mathan was saying, Dr. V.I. Mathan, the director of CMC, was saying that it is possible to develop extraordinary sensitivities if the patient and the healer, the patient and the doctor, enter into a kind of relationship. Now, if you look at the healing ministry that Jesus Christ exercised, obviously there was no technology in it. Jesus could sense and understand the plight of individuals. And because he understood the plight of the individuals in all its truth and comprehensibility or totality, he could intervene in that condition in a healing, or redemptive manner. This is not an exaggeration, it is possible. It is possible to develop your powers, your person, to such an extent that you can have a healing influence on others. Actually, the words that you speak can have healing influence. Psychologically, this is very, very clear. If somebody is depressed and you are a very positive soul, one word from you can cheer up that person and pull him or her from this deep slough of despondency. So we have great powers, but unfortunately, the more we depend on technology, the more we depend on external resources, external cultural resources, the more underdeveloped we become and the more disempowered we become. For example, before the calculators came, my generation could add up quite a large number of figures and get the sum. Even today, I can do it. But very few people, young people today, can do it because they simply don't have to do this. Before the computers came and with their fabulous memory, individuals had to develop their memory. If you were an author and you lived before the computer era, you did your research, you digested all the material, and you held all the material together in your mind, and the mind processed it, and then your insights were born. Today, the computer memory has substituted your memory, and therefore, the human memory is shrinking. We are losing one of the greatest powers of the human mind, the power of memory. And that is the price we are paying for our excessive dependence on the computer, which otherwise offers tremendous advantage. I remember I wrote my first book on a typewriter. What a struggle it was. If you happen to notice a mistake on a page that you have typed, a page of the manuscript, you have to retype the whole thing. But your computer enables you to just effect the correction within 10 seconds, 5 seconds. So it's a great advantage. Not only that, you can surf the net, you can get any information, any reference. It's incredible. It's incredible. I don't think I would have published even 10% of what I have if I did not have a computer and a light facility. So there's no question about it. The computer offers, science and technology offer tremendous advantage. At the same time, we should not be blind to this reality, that it takes a toll on our humanity. And therefore, I'm not advocating that we should boycott technology or we go back in time to the pre-bullock cart age. Nothing of the sort. It's impossible. There is no return journey in history. I'm only too well aware of it. What we have to do is, even as we take advantage of technology, we should remain mindful of the other cutting edge and try our level best to see that the harm caused is minimized to the maximum extent possible. Now, in this context, I just want to make only one point, and that is, from the media discussion on this subject of this air tragedy, and all of us should be very careful about trusting media discussion, but still, the one thing that many people harped on was that perhaps this aircraft was in poor maintenance. Apparently, the Directorate of Civil Aviation served notice on the person responsible for the maintenance of this aircraft in the recent past. Now, that's one area that we have to be mindful of. Technology. One aspect of technology is that the more sophisticated technology gets, the more acute the need to maintain it perfectly. If technology progresses and our culture of maintenance declines, then the result will be absolute disaster. And unfortunately, maintenance is the weakest link in the Indian culture. It's a cultural weakness. I know people don't like my saying it. There are certain blind spots or weak links in our culture. One such weak link, and a very serious one, is are very poor maintenance culture. You look at our roads, look at our public buildings, look at public facilities. All of them are in poor maintenance. You go to any European city, well, you go to Singapore, you go to Far Eastern country cities, Seoul, for example, you find that public facilities are in excellent maintenance. It's a cultural issue. It is this cultural aspect that now needs to be taken care of. Technology is an aspect of culture, but that advantage of technology needs to be complemented with another cultural strength, which is the strength of maintenance. When I took over St. Stephen's College in 2007, believe you me, it was in such a bad state of maintenance that it cannot be mentioned. It was in a terrible state. And it took me 3-4 years of relentless effort to repair, restore, renovate, standardize every square inch of the educational infrastructure of St. Stephen's College. That was one of my greatest struggles because I was always aware of the fact that maintenance is the weak link in the Indian culture. And whether or not this accident is due to poor maintenance is something that only a thoroughbred inquiry by experts will establish. But on general terms, I can say that we as a people, we as a culture, have a very long way to go in respect to developing a due appreciation for the need for maintaining our facilities at the optimum level. Well, more of that on a future occasion. Time is already running out. Once again, I commiserate with all those who are grieving on account of this tragedy. And indeed, India as a whole is grieving with them. May the peace of God rest and abide upon those who are broken-hearted. Jai Hind.